All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about patch 11.2, and there is a lot of new content that got added. They are even adding a raid boss the size of your mom. But this is a Death Knight channel, and I'm going to be focused primarily on the changes to Death Knight. Now, I really try to avoid bringing you guys clickbaity content like, check out this new OP Death Knight ability. I don't want to do that. So I try to put a lot of thought into this. I've played around on the PTR a bit with the changes, and I want to give feedback on things that I think are really good and things that I think maybe not so good or could use improvement. If you don't care as much about the feedback and the changes and you just want to see the cool new animations and stuff like that, I will have timestamps. You can skip ahead to whatever section is best for you. Let's get started. All right, so we're going to start things off by talking about the actual patch changes, and then we're going to go into the PTR and play around with the new talents and see how they look and the new animations and all that stuff. So first things first, there was a new talent added, Unholy Momentum, which increases haste by 2%. Unholy Momentum was an ability that Arthas had in Warcraft 3, which buffed his allies around him. So a lot of people thought that this was going to be the raid buff. Unfortunately, it's not. It's just a talent. This whole section here starts talking about Death Knights and raid buffs, and Abomination's Limb was actually removed. So Unholy now has a Abomination Limb looking cooldown that just does damage and doesn't grip, but Abomination's Limb is now removed for Death Knight. So the reason for this was that it was incredibly powerful. Grip is considered a raid buff, and so if you just have a Abomination Limb going off and gripping everything, your raid buff is seen as less valuable. That was the argument that was made here. Now, I want to address this, Blizzard, because I really think that you're fighting against yourself with this one. The problem with looking at Death Grip as a raid buff and not a utility tool like a Warlock Gate is that unless it is always going to see value, unless it is something that you can get value out of in every fight, like you can with Battle Shout, right? Or the Priest buff, or the versatility buff from Druids, you can't consider this a raid buff, because if there are single target encounters without ads that are available to be gripped, what's going to happen is that a Death Knight is going to queue up in looking for group, and people are going to say, we don't need a Death Knight for this fight because Death Grip doesn't do anything. So unless you plan on designing every single encounter moving forward with grippable ads, I think it would be much easier for you guys just to give some sort of raid buff. And look, people are not going to be upset. People aren't going to be upset if they have 2% extra haste or extra leech or extra execute damage or whatever it is, because people are just going to be happy they're doing extra damage. And I think you really put yourself in a position where you are having to design every single encounter moving forward around this one raid buff, instead of just doing something easy, which would be giving Death Knights an aura that increases haste. I think that would be much easier. It's a free win with a lot of people. It's less work for you guys moving forward. I don't see why you wouldn't do that and just look at Death Grip as, it's something valuable in some fights as a utility tool. The other big change here was that AMZ was changed. So Anti-Magic Zone is now a percentage magic damage reduction effect with no cap. The thing here is that this is good and bad. So the good thing about this is that before, AMZ was really, really valuable as blood and less valuable as DPS because of the difference in the cap. However, the problem here is that most people never reach the cap, and now the increased cooldown. So I want to talk about this. Blizzard, I think that you can safely put this as a 3-minute cooldown, and maybe a 2 minutes with this talent. I think 4 minutes is a little excessive for the change. This is just as a Death Knight that raids. I think that would be a lot a lot more beneficial. I just think that's a little much. I know that you were solving the issue of, bringing a tank DK for AMZ versus a DPS DK for AMZ, and I appreciate that you're looking into that issue. I do think that the cooldown penalty is a little bit high. Okay, let's keep going. So Deathbringer, we have some changes. So Exterminate has been updated. You are no longer going to be reapplying Reaper's Mark. So this means that when you are popping your Reaper's Mark and the scythes are coming out, you're no longer going to be reapplying it. I know people like that gameplay loop. It was pretty cool, but the problem with this is, in their developer notes, they highlight it right here, is that there was really high variance in damage output because it was just a lottery of if you got another Reaper's Mark or not, and you were doing a ton of damage if you did, and you weren't doing a lot of damage if you didn't, and that doesn't really leave a lot of skill up to the player. It's just kind of a lottery. So I understand this change. Hopefully, there's more tuning around this, and we'll see as we play on the PTR, so that it still feels like a powerful cooldown and there's a fun gameplay loop there. But that is a big change, and I'm totally fine with that one. Sand Lane, there was another change where Dark Transformation and Dancing Rune Weapon now are the things that summon your Blood Beast. Before, especially Unholy and Mythic Plus, a lot of your damage would depend on if you just procced a Blood Beast at the start of the pull or the end of the pull. Now you are going to be able to summon your Blood Beast whenever you choose, which I think is a really good change. People were complaining a bit that this is going to be a nerf in damage because you're not getting it as often, but I think that this is just going to turn into a tuning issue. I think they removed a lot of variance with these hero talent changes, and I think overall these are good things. So again, I want to be fair in my feedback. I want to talk about things that I think are good. I want to talk about things that I don't think are good. I think that removing variance is a good thing because, as much as immediately there might be a damage loss, I think that this stuff is all stuff that's subject to tuning. I really want to focus on the actual gameplay philosophy and design in these changes rather than just the numbers, because the numbers can change. So Frost. Frost has a lot of changes, guys. Look, this is going to be something that we're going to largely be covering in the PTR section because I'm a visual person. You guys are watching a video, you're probably visual people too. Looking at all of this is not going to give you the full picture. So we need to actually visualize this in the talent tree, and I will do that for you right after this section, I promise. So some things, a lot of the talents have changed. Positioning the Frost tree looks completely different now. Glacial Advance is now something that you learn immediately. Let's see here. So, Empower Rune Weapon has changed. Empower Rune Weapon is now a ability that you can press. It's on the global cooldown. You press it, and it will give you a Killing Machine proc and some runic power. Now, it also has cooldown reduction, so you have 2 charges of it, and it has cooldown reduction whenever you get a rhyme proc. So this is interesting because it almost feels like a rogue ability. I am not the biggest fan of this. I don't like it. Personally, I don't like having that to manage your Empower Rune Weapon on the global. It doesn't feel good to me. But we can cover that when we get into the actual PTR, and I've played around with it, and I've hit a training dummy for a while, and I just wasn't a fan. But that is how Empower Rune Weapon is going to work now. It is going to be something that you press. It's going to do a little bit of damage to the enemy. It's going to give you a Killing Machine proc, but it is on the global cooldown, and you are going to be trying to get cooldown reduction for it by getting round procs. So now we have some damage changes, right? Some talents that increase damage. I'm not going to cover these as much. Again, this stuff is all going to be coming down to tuning and numbers, I really want to focus on the gameplay design sections. So, new talent Frostbane. When you cast Glacial Advance, each foe struck has a chance to transform your next Frost Strike into Frostbane. The chance increases with the number of Razor Ice stacks on the target. So this is a capstone. So they used to have Shattering Frost here at the very bottom. So Shattering Blade and then Shattering Frost. And what they've tried to do here is make it so that you are no longer having to tab target and Frost Strike enemies when you are pulling AoE pulls in Mythic Plus. So you used to have to tab target and smack someone with 5 stacks of Razor Ice and then tab to another person, smack someone with 5 stacks of Razor Ice. They're trying to get rid of that because people didn't really like it. So this is when you cast Glacial Advance, you are going to use this ability, which the animation is new. The animation is like a frosty wake of ashes. You are going to essentially do AoE damage with your Frost Strike. Now, Blizzard, my piece of feedback for you here, I know you guys are really pushing Glacial Advance. It's not a fun button to use. I don't like pressing Glacial Advance. I don't think a lot of other people like pressing Glacial Advance. I think that this should come from Obliterate. I think this right here, whenever you cast Glacial Advance, this should come from Obliterate. I think that's one of my biggest complaints with the Frost changes is this. I do not like having to cast Glacial Advance until I get a proc for Frostbane. Now, new talent, Killing Streak. This one's pretty cool. I like this one. So what this does is essentially when you get 2 Killing Machine procs lined up and you're holding 2 procs, you can consume them both at the same time. This is really cool. It gives you a bit of a buff as well. It just feels really powerful. It's really cool. I like this change. New talent, North Winds, Howling Blast damage, right? Frost Reaper. Okay, so this is another gameplay design change that I'll cover. So Frost Reaper, what it is Obliterate has a chance to tether the souls of its target and a nearby enemy to yours. Frost Scythe severs the tethers, dealing Shadow Frost damage to both foes. So something worth mentioning here, this is important, guys. Obliterate is no longer going to cleave with Death and Decay. Death and Decay is essentially gone for Frost. You don't need to press it anymore. This is amazing, amazing, amazing news. Well done, Blizzard. Like I said, I'm going to be fair with all my feedback. Really good things, really bad things. Frost not having to press Death and Decay again is fantastic. Now, how this is going to work is essentially you are going to obliterate someone until you get Frost Scythe, this Soul Tether proc, and then you are going to use Frost Scythe and it's going to do a bunch of damage. So I think that's really cool. I think that's a really good workaround. I really like this talent. Blizzard, if you're watching, the one issue with this is it's not always super visual. I think that there should be some sort of proc awareness that pops up for when you get this soul tether, so that it's more obvious and people aren't going to have to just track it with a weak aura, because I know you guys are trying to move away from weak auras. So my recommendation would be to make this way more obvious. Now, Howling Blades, Rhyme target, deal frost damage under 15 damage. So again, some of these stuff I'm not going to cover because they're not really gameplay design. They're just, damage buffs and that sort of thing. Frostwhelp's aid is now gone, so you are going to have sort of a thing that makes up for that with Frostworm's Fury instead. So just a heads up, you're not going to have that mastery buff on your Pillar of Frost anymore. It's going to come from Frostworm's Fury. Here's the Empower Rune Weapon has been redesigned. So this is where you press Empower Rune Weapon and deal Shadow Frost damage, and you gain runic power and grants you Killing Machine. Has 2 charges. Look, I don't like it. Blizzard, if you're watching, I don't like it. I've heard from a lot of other Death Knights, they don't like it. It's not super cool. Uh, I don't like having to manage it. Frost is, I know I sound like I'm being really lame here, but Frost is a simple spec. I don't like this extra thing to manage. You added a bunch of cool stuff with Frost Reaper, where I can integrate Frost Scythe, and I think if you make Frostbane from Obliterate instead of Glacial Advance, I think that would be really cool. There's other stuff going on. The Empower Rune Weapon thing, it's just not, it's not a fun thing to press. It just feels like, I'm having to do a chore in order to get a Killing Machine proc, and I don't like that. It just, I don't enjoy this. If you are listening, this and this are my two main concerns with Frost. Okay? These are my biggest concerns with Frost. Power Rune Weapon visual effects have been updated. The visual effect is, there's just no thing above your head now. Like no rune above your head now. I don't know if there's supposed to be more there, but it's not super, the animation isn't super unique. Breath of Sindragosa has been redesigned, so this one's really cool, guys. This, again, credit where credit's due. I talked about the two main bad things for Frost that I don't like. I'm telling you, the thing that I really like, Breath of Sindragosa has been redesigned. You guys did it. You guys went and actually made a change to this ability, which I know was really tough because it's an iconic ability. Not a lot of people liked it, but people liked it and they were very vocal about liking it. It needed a change. It was so clunky and not fun and hit or miss. It needed a change, and you guys did it. So I appreciate you guys being brave here and like making a change. Breath of Sindragosa has been redesigned. This is now like an evoker ability. You are going to empower it based on how much runic power you have. So you can go ahead and hold it down, and there's 3 stages, similar to Slicing Winds, similar to the evoker spells. And it will, once you get to like level 3, it will cast just automatically, and you're not going to have to sit there and manage your runic power with it. So it's really cool. It's a lot more fluid. It's not nearly as hit or miss because you can kind of control. It's a 2-minute cooldown. It's not going to last a super long time. I mean, 30 seconds is, you know, my girlfriend would say is a long time, but you know, and WoW it's not. So this is really good, and I'm very, very happy with this change. I'm very, very happy with this change. You guys did a good job on this. Okay, Rhyme has been updated. So Frost Strike and Glacial Advance have a 45% chance, and Breath of Sindragosa has a 30% chance to cause your next Howling Blast to consume no runes and deal additional damage. So this, the reason for this was because they want your runic power spenders to feel better to use. Everything coming from Obliterate, they didn't like as much. So again, I think the Rhyme thing makes perfect sense for coming from Frost Strike and Glacial Advance. I think they went overboard. Okay, I think they went overboard with this, right? Because they tied too much to Glacial Advance. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that change at all. I think this could have been Obliterate and it would be totally fine. But I think that the change down here, where your runic power spenders can create Rhyme, that is a good change. So I think directionally they made a good idea. I think the other one, they have to walk back a little bit. I think they went too overboard with it, and it doesn't feel very fun to use in the actual PTR, but that is just my opinion. Now, Two-Hand Frost is back. Guys, this was I think people were really happy about seeing this, that there is, you know, a buff for Might of the Frozen Wastes, because I know a lot of people really like Two-Handed Frost. Frost Scythe visuals have been updated. This one, guys, I'll show you in the PTR. Blizzard, I really like that the scythes are you're doing all this stuff with the scythes and there's new scythe animations, but you gotta stop using the Burning Throne scythe for it. It's like a golden water scythe that doesn't match Death Knight at all. I think if you use any other like Death Knight looking scythe, it would be really cool. I don't like that one. It doesn't fit DK thematically. It just looks really out of place. Yeah, not a fan. Now, a lot of these other things are just there's some Remorseless Winter changes. I'm not going to cover these as much because a lot of these are just damage amplifiers. Like I said, when we get in the PTR, I'll show you what they look like on the actual talent tree. But I don't want to make this video an hour long. I think we're going to be approaching that. So I'm going to try and skip through some of this stuff. Another thing is Absolute Zero. Absolute Zero is baked into Frostworm's Fury now. So it's just going to stun. And Chill Streak was removed. So heads up, Chill Streak is no longer a thing. It was removed. People didn't really run it. And I know it was something that we used a while ago, but it was always hard to tune, and it's no longer here. So now we're going to get into the Unholy section. For Unholy, there were not as many changes as Frost, and I think that this was the main problem. So some changes are really cool. Some changes I think need to be reassessed. So up here on the tree, you have Plague Mastery and Grave Mastery. This is kind of where you choose, are you going to do more damage with your diseases? Are you going to do more damage with your minions? Now, this is cool. The only change here that I think this needs is this should not be Critical Strike. This should not be Critical Strike. Unholy does not use Critical Strike. Critical Strike does not do anything for us. I think that this needs to be removed because if this is left in, Unholy is going to be put in a situation where they need a decent amount of Critical Strike for this to do anything. This is going to impact PvE, where Unholy likes Haste Mastery, and that's fun and it's engaging because the haste works with your pets, and the Mastery just increases your damage, which is nice. And I think adding Critical Strike in here like this would just really disrupt the flow. In PvP, this would really not be fun to take, because in PvP, Critical Strike is heavily nerfed. So we'd have to take a stat that we don't like to take, just to, get any value from this massive damage buff that is like very high on the tree. This should not be Critical Strike. Flat out, it just shouldn't be Critical Strike. I think that needs to be changed. Now, new talent, Desecrate. So let's talk about this. Desecrate is a new talent where you are going to put down Death and Decay, and immediately after it's cast, you can cast it again, and it will sort of blow up the Death and Decay, and you get benefits of standing in it, and it applies Festering Wounds. So this is a tuning thing right now, so I won't spend too much time on it, but it doesn't do nearly enough damage to compete with Defile. It just doesn't. It doesn't do that. This would need to be buffed. But the Festering Wounds thing, let's have a chat, Blizzard, okay? The problem with Frost was that I think you went a little overboard on things like Glacial Advance, having the effect on Frost Strike. The thing with Unholy is I don't think you went overboard enough. There's some new passive generation of wounds, but guys, we have been saying for years, get rid of it. We don't like it. Wounds are not fun. They're outdated. They're clunky combo points from vanilla where they're tied to individual players or individual monsters and mobs. It's not fun. It's not engaging. No one likes pressing Festering Strike. You gotta rip the Band-Aid off. The same thing you guys did with Breath of Syndragosa, where you were like, we're gonna take a risk and rip the Band-Aid off and change this. Well done, Blizzard. Well done. Whoever did this for Frost is fantastic. I really appreciate you. Whoever is leaving in wounds for Unholy, you gotta make a change. You gotta make a change. And I know I'm harping on this, but it is not fun. It's not engaging. No one likes it. Have something that is buffing our pets or buffing our diseases that we can be managing. The festering wounds is not fun. It's not fun gameplay. Now, Abomination's Limb has been renamed into Legion of Souls and redesigned. Summon a Legion of Clawing Souls to assist you. So this is a choice node with Raise Abomination. It replaces Army of the Dead. It does a bunch of damage right now. It's essentially, it looks the same as Abomination's Limb. All it does is applies Festering Wounds over 12 seconds, and it's just a damage cooldown. It's just a big damage cooldown that applies wounds. So in single target fights, it seems like you would be taking Abomination. In multi-target fights, you would be taking Legion of Souls, is kind of what the design looks like right now. Again, I don't know about tuning because this is stuff that all needs to be tuned, but that seems like that is the design philosophy here, is that you kind of have a multi-target and a single target choice in the middle of the tree, which is fantastic. Guys, that's exactly what it should be. You should have in the middle of the tree should be like where you make a choice. You kind of get to pick and choose a little bit. So that, you know, because before the middle of the tree was just like, it was just one singular thing. So this is good. This is very good. All will serve. This is another change that I love. Blizzard, what did I ask for from you guys in my wish list? I said we need more interaction with our pets. We need more interaction. We need more things that are going on with them. What this does is makes it so that the skeleton archer, every time you are going to be using a sudden doom proc, he's going to be shooting out a shadow damage arrow, a blighted arrow. And if you press epidemic, what's really cool is that it is going to ricochet and hit 2 additional targets. So he's going to dynamically adjust if he is hitting multi-target or single target, depending on the button that you press. This is so cool. Guys, Blizzard, well done. I love this. I love that there's you have some way to interact with your pet, and he's making dynamic decisions based on what you are deciding. This is very, very, very good design. Very good design. Again, I'm going to be as fair as I can be here. I'm going to talk about things that you did poorly. I'm going to talk about things that you did well. Wounds, bad, 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 very bad. All will serve change, fantastic. 10 out of 10. Love it. Another thing, a little bit of a spoiler, but All Will Serve Buddy got a redesign. He now has like a Maldraxxus skeleton appearance with armor. So I'll show you guys that in the PTR soon. Reaping has an additional effect. Soul Reaper's Execute increases the damage of your minions by 10% for 8 seconds. I love this. I love this. I love this. I love more any interaction with your pets like this. It gets this cool buff that says like your pets sense weakness and it enrages them. Very badass. Very cool. I love this design where this whole thing, this is what we need more of, where you are going to have more interaction with your pets dynamically with what you are doing. Very, very cool. Apocalypse now replaces Dark Transformation, and if it is known, and also summons your pet ghoul on cast. So, Blizzard, this one, look, I see what you're trying. I know what you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to, Unholy has a nuclear launch sequence with its cooldowns, right? And you're like, that's too much. You've tried this before, though, and it didn't work, and so it got reverted. I know you're trying it again. Maybe it's new people in the driver's seat. But look, I want to be very clear about what people like about Unholy, because I think there's a miscommunication here. Unholy players complain about the nuclear launch sequence to do damage, but they love it. They love it. They love having multiple cooldowns that they can manage, and timing all these cooldowns correctly and pulling them off correctly is what leads to high damage. They complain about it, but they love it. Don't let them kid you. The complexity should not be in managing things like wounds. The complexity should be in managing cooldowns like Dark Transformation and Apocalypse correctly. So what I would do if I was you guys, just remember, like, even if they're not going to tell you honestly, that is what they like, okay? They like the nuclear launch sequence. They like managing the cooldowns. They do not like managing things like wounds. So remove the complexity of things like wounds and keep the complexity of things like multiple cooldowns. As much as they seem like they're complaining about it, I promise you they secretly love it. Decomposition was buffed. You guys added that last season, was it? Last season? And then never touched it. So it was just bad. It was a bad cooldown. It didn't do a lot of damage. You guys are increasing the damage of it, and I promised I wasn't going to get too into the weeds about numbers and just talk about design, but this is still not going to be enough damage. It's just not. It's just not enough damage. It won't be. So heads up. You either have to redesign this one or you have to tune it again. Be aware. Unholy Pact now forms a shadowy chain between you and your pet. So there's now a new sort of visual for this. It is a purple chain instead of the fire chain, which didn't really fit DK all that much unless you're a Bolvar. Looks cool. Sure. I like it. Festering Scythe Override Aura now lasts for 30 seconds. Plaguebringer. This is what I was looking for. Guys, Plaguebringer and Clawing Shadows is no longer a choice node. Fantastic. I love this. I love Clawing Shadows is like one of my favorite abilities on Unholy because you feel like you're this hybrid melee ranged. You can do damage at range, but you do more damage in melee because the melee gives you the sudden doom procs. So you feel you're unique. You know, you feel a bit like you're like a plate caster, necromancer. I love that. So not having to choose with Plaguebringer is really cool. People are underestimating how good this change is. I think people that are complaining, I really am trying to be big on fairness here. This is a good change, guys. You did a good change here. Improved Festering Strike. No one wants to take it because no one wants to press Festering Strike. No one cares about Festering Strike damage. It's two runes. No, people hate wounds. They hate wounds. I don't know how else to say it. And Ruptured Viscera was lost. No one really played that. Runic Mastery was lost, which no one played either. Some of these are fun. Ruptured Viscera, I would have liked to see some way that this would have worked, like some redesign of this. I liked the talent in theory. One more thing that I want to talk about real quick while we're talking about pets and Ruptured Viscera and stuff. Unholy Aura needs to be adjusted for Commander. Guys, the Commander side of the tree, I think it needs to be looked at a little bit. You know, it forces you to be in a certain range, and it only affects your Gargoyle or your Army of the Dead Ghouls, and your Army of the Dead Ghouls aren't ever getting summoned because we never take that. We always we're either going to take Legion of Souls or Abomination. I think that needs to be adjusted where it you know, works for your Apocalypse Ghouls as well. I think there's some changes that need to happen there. So that's just another piece of feedback. Okay, we've talked about the patch notes for a while, guys. I'm going to show you what the new talent trees look like. I'm going to show you some of the new animations. So let's get into that on the PTR. All right, guys. So here we are on the PTR. I'm going to go ahead and show you what some of the new visuals look like. I'm going to show you what the new talent trees and pathing looks like. So for Frost, here we go. Look, we don't know what the best talents are, any of that stuff yet. Okay, so what I did here, I just selected stuff that has new visuals because I want to show you what it looks like. So don't pay attention and be like, oh, you know, Skull is saying this is the new build for Frost. I'm not. Some of the pathing has obviously changed. We have, you know, Empowered Rune Weapon with its cooldown reduction up here. Frostworm's Fury was added here, which has, you know, the mastery buff as a pathing. The stun is already built in. Over here, we have the Frost Reaper, which is that tether between obliterates and the other targets. They said something that they really want to do is make sure that when you're leveling Frost, you have access to cleave earlier so that dungeons don't feel miserable, which is why Howling Blast was Glacial Advance was added as a skill that you learn by default. Howling Blades, I think this is the one that's really cool. And then let's see here. We have Frostbane. Frostbane is the one where casting Glacial Advance has a chance to make your next Frost Strike cost 40 less runic power and transform into Frostbane, which is like a icy Wake of Ashes. It's pretty cool. It does AoE. I really like this ability. Again, Blizzard, if you're watching, I really, 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 really think that Glacial Advance should not be the thing that procs this. I think the thing that should proc this is either Rhyme or Obliterate or something of that nature. Pressing Glacial Advance for this sucks. I'm going to be honest, I don't like Glacial Advance. I really don't. I think that getting rid of that would be changing that would be great. I know you want to have more power in the spenders, but I think you put that elsewhere in the tree that it's fine. And then we have Breath of Sindragosa, which also has a new it's an empowered ability now, so it's like Slicing Winds or an Evoker ability, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. So this is some of the change that we've seen. As you can see, the tree looks a lot different, and I like these capstone changes a lot. These are massive changes, guys. I'm going to show you the visuals here, and I'm going to show you some of the things that I think are really cool and some of the things visually that I think should be updated still. So we're going to start off with Frostworm's Fury, which has a new updated high-res dragon, and it is not breathing a cloud of just white low-res smoke. It's now like blue fire, which is really cool. Kind of matching the Runeforge aesthetic. So here we go. He just did it over there. I'm going to do it as well. Get ready. There it goes. It's really cool. It's a high-res model now, and it's breathing blue fire. It's super sick. It comes out fast, so it's kind of tough to see, but very, very, very cool. I think that Breath of Sindragosa is one that Blizzard, you should update. I think that the visual should not be a cloud of low-res white smoke. You should change it to match the new Frostworms like Blue Fire, Breath, because it's weird. We have this high-res Frostworm's Fury coming down now, breathing this blue icy fire, and then we have Breath of Sindragosa, which is our ability, which is just a puff of white smoke, I guess. It just doesn't look super great. So I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. I do love the actual change to it, so let me be clear. It is just the visual that I think needs updating at this point. It's very old. But the actual ability being a empowered ability is very cool. So let me get some runic power, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what that looks like. Actually, you can see here is the tether. I guess I can show you guys that. That is the tether that you can then sever with Frost Scythe. By pressing Obliterate, you have a chance to tether some enemies, and you can sever that with Frost Scythe. Really cool design. You get these sort of links between them. It's kind of like a dark paladin, because paladin has those glowy gold ones, if you've seen, with their hero talent tree. So I like this sort of contrast between the paladins. I think that this needs some sort of visual indicator around your character. Maybe Frost Scythe lights up in a way, just because when you're in a big pack of mobs, you may not see it. It may not be super clear. So I think that should be something that I don't want people to have to track that with a weak aura. That would be visually my feedback. Now that we have runic power, I'm going to show you Breath of Sindragosa. So here we go. We are going to cast it. And see, now it is just auto casting because we empowered it all the way. So very, very cool. I think that visual could be updated to the updated Frostworm Fire. But great change. It's a great change. You can do other stuff. You can press Frost Strike during it. Now it doesn't just change your gameplay to a very singular obliterate Howling Blast type of gameplay. Very, very good change. So love that. I'm going to show you guys one more time what the Frostworm looks like, just in case people missed it. Here we go. Very cool. Very, very cool. We also have the Frost Scythe. As you can see, it's using that in Taurus 1, right? Which I really think that they got to replace that. I don't like that it's like this. It has like this gold watery weapon. I think if you change that to like just a black scythe or a blue scythe or something, it would just be cooler. Let me also show you with Glacial Advance what the new sort of Wake of Ashes ability looks like. So here's the new AoE Frost Strike. It's like an icy Wake of Ashes. Pretty neat. I'll show you guys that one more time as well. I like that one. The only thing, again, I don't like is they keep reusing that scythe asset, which I don't think is super impressive. I think that could be changed visually. So I'm giving feedback on these animations because they're new. So hopefully Blizzard listens. Okay, let's get enough runic power. Here we go with it again. Icy Wake of Ashes. Pretty neat. So those are the visual changes. One more thing, the Empowered Rune Weapon I mentioned. So whenever you press the Empowered Rune Weapon, you get runic power and a killing machine. Again, I don't like managing this. It's not fun. I don't like it. I wish I had better feedback than I don't like it, but I played with it. I've used it in the rotation, and it just feels like a chore. And no one wants to be playing a chore or doing a chore. They just don't. It's not fun. This is the only one that I feel like I really am not giving super targeted feedback, but I just don't like it. I don't like pressing it. I don't like using it. It's just extra stuff I don't want to worry about. Frost is supposed to be the simple spec. Sorry, everyone. Frost is simple. Unholy is still simple, but less simple. So let me go ahead and pull up Unholy since we're speaking of it. So for Unholy, here are the new talents. So as you can see up here, we have the Plague Mastery, which is the critical strike and the critical strike on the minions, critical strike on the diseases. So again, this should not be critical strike. That's my feedback. It just shouldn't be. It's going to negatively affect PvP. It's negatively going to affect PvE because now Unholy is going to have to dip in a critical strike, and it just doesn't like doing that. It doesn't synergize with anything else in its toolkit. Let's not complicate stuff that we don't need to be complicating with the gearing because not fun. The other thing is, I was in the wrong talent there. It was driving me crazy a little bit. Okay, so let me show you some of the other stuff we have. So we have Eternal Agony is now up here, which is neat. We have Clawing Shadows right here, and we have Plaguebringer right here. So if you want to, you can take both of them. Super neat. Pretty cool. You have Defile and Desecrate right here on the same choice node. Again, Desecrate does not do enough damage for it to be worthwhile. And I think that we're just not going to run it unless it gets changed. The All Will Serve is still in the same spot. The Unholy Pact is still in the same spot, and those ones are the ones that have the new animations, and I will show you what those look like. We also have down here Raise Abomination and Legion of Souls. Legion of Souls, the visual is exactly the same. It looks like Abomination's Limb. It just does damage. It doesn't do anything else besides damage and wounds. So it also replaces Army of the Dead. Now, with Commander, again, this increases your Army of the Dead ghouls and your Gargoyle. I think that this should be made to empower your Magus and your Apocalypse Ghouls as well, because it kind of feels like a waste that, right? We talent into Army of the Dead, we talent into Abomination, and I just, I really think that this should, I really think that this should empower your Apocalypse Ghouls and stuff. And Unholy Aura, this is the other one. All enemies within 8 yards take 20% increased damage from your minions. This kind of sucks for stuff that you got to be moving out of the way while you have like all your ghouls on the target. I think maybe like all enemies within 8 yards of you or your pet would be a solution to this. Just as another piece of feedback. But yeah, let me show you some of the new visualizations here. So here we have the new skeleton archer. So here's what he looks like. He's a little Maldraxxus skeleton. He's got armor. There are no recolors of this, so if you keep summoning him, you're not going to summon a different recolor. That is his color. Blizzard. When is the pet customization coming? I would really like to be able to customize this guy. I want to give him blue DK eyes or black armor or something. When is that? You're updating some of these models, and I appreciate that, but I'm still waiting on my Warlock level customization for pets. Don't think that I forgot, okay? I still remember. Some of the other stuff, I will show you Dark Transformation. I don't think I have it on my bar right now. Oh, that's right, because Apocalypse does it now. So let me go ahead and hit this dummy. All right, Apocalypse. Here's the new shadowy chain, as you can see. That's what it looks like now. I'm glad they updated it. It looks better than the fire, the like low res fire that it was before. So that's a cool visual change. Let's see what else. We have an updated Magus. So as you can see, he is now the Maldraxxus skeleton as well. Let me see if I can get another one for you guys so you can see that too. I need to wait for a sudden doom proc. There we go. So here we get the Maldraxxus Magus. All right, guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate everyone taking the time. If you have questions, comments, feedback, anything like that, please leave a comment down below. I love responding to you guys. It's fun for me. Blizzard, if you're watching this, hopefully you got something valuable out of it. You know, I'm not a game designer. I don't pretend to be, but I do really love Death Knight, and I just want it to be fun and engaging for people. So thank you again for watching, and suffer well.